Hey, what's up everybody? Rob Marzullo here, Ram Studio Comics, and bringing you another video today, and it's going to be on me using Zbrush, but it's not going to be me doing much of a tutorial. Just kind of talking to you about, getting used to this software and having some fun with it. So kind of a work along and just kind of chit-chatting. So, um, you know, most of my channel stuff has been like comic book oriented and illustration that in that way. And now I'm doing this, and it's basically still going to promote all of that. That's essentially what I'm doing it for. Um, to promote my comic book character Blackstone Eternal. Obviously, which you can find on indieplanet.com. Love the support. And if that's no longer valid, then there'll be a link below, but it's still valid at the point of this video. So alright, so at any rate, using ZBrush here, really digging this software. It's complex. I've got a lot to learn with it, but it's fantastic. Using what's called Dynamesh right here, I believe, yep, in Dynamesh mode. Actually reconstructs, if you hit like Shift F, it shows you the polygon flow, and it reconstructs the polygon flow as you build, which is pretty darn neat. I come from being a Lightwave guy back in the day, so I had to point by point design everything, and now to see that you can just simply go in here and model stuff uh, interactively is pretty cool. I should have jumped on this bandwagon a long time ago. So I'm going to do like some kind of alien creature. It always helps to have these different characters for my book, and I probably should sketch it first, drop that in the background, but for this particular one I'm just going to have some fun with it. um, So I immediately defined, some kind of head shape and eyes. And another good thing to do is, you hit B for brush, M for move, V for one of the move tools. Hit space, and you can interactively size your brush. Um, One thing is to kind of hurry up and get your overall form going, right? So that's why I kind of place that face shape in there, because I want to figure out if I want this thing to be humanoid. So far it's looking real humanoid, but I think I want to change it a bit. So I'm going to, you know, change out the facial shape. I got enough humanoid characters. I need to come up with something just a little bit crazier than that. And the cool thing about the software, it's like drawing, um, and it's just really quick for organic stuff, which is why I got into it, because I can build pretty decent stuff in Lightwave as far as hard shape dynamics, and actually this has made huge jumps in hard shape dynamics also. So it's but I basically got into this more for organic modeling. All right, the other thing is to define some planes. So let's hit like B. Trim dynamics, a good one. Let me turn it down a little bit more, and then essentially it's going to flatten out some stuff. So what I'll do is define some planes on this creature, character, whatever it is at this point, um, so it doesn't come across as too soft and you know jelly-like, whatever. So yeah, I'll just kind of define some planes and give me a better idea where I want to take this. And that combined with the move. So brush move. It, actually, brush move T is the other one. I think this one adjusts the topology while it does it. I would imagine that's the only reason it has that difference in the brush diagram there. Not sure though. And then my other favorite is the clay buildup. So BCB, I believe, yeah. And just a real quick way to grab your brushes. But again, this isn't me explaining this stuff. I'm very much a novice, so I don't want to pretend to be able to give you knowledge here in that regard. This is essentially to show you how I use it to create my characters. I'll do like kind of an inverted nostril thingy here. You hold shift to smooth, by the way, if you want to know. And the other thing that's really neat about this is you draw regularly just by pushing down and changing your brush size. Then you hold Alt and you can dig in. So just with that alone, you can really come up with some quick, shapes and things. And it's like, essentially the only way I can explain it, it's like drawing in 3D, and it's awesome. Dig these eyes in more. It's always good to drop in spheres for your eyes and then model around them. And I've never modeled traditionally, but I would assume that this is how it feels because it's just such a natural feeling when doing this. I would think that that's how traditional sculpting would work. But again, I can't attest to that since I've never done it. I'm trying to get some kind of funky ear shapes in here. Who knows? Maybe they don't need ears. Maybe their culture doesn't require ears. That's the other fun thing about designing aliens. It's like, and you just really can go crazy with it. I always like doing these little, lumps or, almost looks like spines in the noggin there or something. And the other thing that you do when you Dynamesh, like if you hold control and you drag, it reforms the Dynamesh. Probably should have showed you the polygon flow before I did that, but it basically reforms that. And then as you feel the need to add more detail, actually let me give him some kind of neck here real quick. Um, Hold control, I believe. Yeah, you draw like this mask, something like this. I'll give him a little skinny neck, and then hold Alt, move it down. Control, tap the screen, it reverses the selection. And what do I want? The transpose tool, but I think if I just hit move, yeah, it'll give me this transpose tool. Just kind of nothing like I've ever seen, but once you figure it out, it works alright. You grab inside the orange areas and move it around, but then you grab inside the rings inside to actually adjust, just like that. And then hold control and drag, and it releases the selection. Then go back to your brush or whatever, and it drops the transpose tool. At least that's how I do it. Probably not the right way, but tell you what, it's like pulling teeth till you figure that out. And you hold shift and click the screen, and you can jump it back to straight, forward, back, whatever. And actually, I should have moved that neck back. Darn it. Control Z. The other thing that's real nice about ZBrush is the Control Z goes back like really far. So kudos to whoever did that because that's awesome. Nothing worse than using a software and you can only Control Z back a few times or whatever. This one goes back like hundreds of times. It does an autosave feature, which I'm not a big fan of, but I'm sure it's for a good reason. Clay brush. Okay. Alright, so get some anatomy of the neck. Now control and drag again and it'll retopologize or whatever that mesh for me so that, now I can make the neck smooth and, start again. Really cool feature because I noticed without that you have to be a lot more careful about the way that you add geometry to your model. So it's pretty neat the way they did that. Good job, whoever designed that. Alright, so some kind of jawline. Probably some real crazy wrinkles under the neck would be cool. Another good thing to keep in mind, I mean, I'm not big into, doing this stuff, so I can't give you a whole lot of great knowledge in this regard, but if you're going to do like aliens and monsters and things like that, stuff I've heard other artists that I revere and look up to have said, and it makes a lot of sense. Study insects and reptiles and things like that. And if you give your models and your characters a little bit of that, uh, people identify with it better. It's obviously it's something fantastical, but that little bit of, you know, I don't know if you want to call it realism, but that a little bit that they can relate to it, I guess, kind of shows through, and there's some really great reference when it comes to stuff like that. You know, insects look pretty close to aliens, and in my opinion, anyways, if you really study them, they're pretty freaky looking, and aquatic creatures also. There's some pretty wild aquatic creatures. So okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm not I immediately want to go to detail, and that's me being a novice with this stuff. You want to stay away from detail, and I'm probably already at too high of a resolution as it is, um, but I do want to. So let me extend the shoulders out. So I'll add some more geometry here. Let me try to move this out. Or actually, BMT. And I think if I just extend this and redynamesh it, I should be fine. That. I want him to have more of a skinnier neck. I'm kind of seeing something cool I want to do too with the neck anatomy. That's the beauty of this too. As you're drawing and creating in this, it kind of lends itself to like how when you sketch, you're trying to figure out the next stage of your sketch. Well, that's the beauty of this. The way that you're building and structuring really lets the ideas start flowing. For instance, I had no clue as to what type of alien I was going to create. Like I said, I didn't pre-sketch this or anything. I just, want to create an alien. So I'm letting the idea kind of organically flow, and it's creating itself in a sense or whatever. And then I try to, stay away from making the anatomy look too human. It's hard to do though because you study, like I do comics, so I'm studying anatomy all the time for my comic book drawing. But then, I'm trying to think of something alien here, so I don't want to, obviously put the sternocleidomastoid where it goes too much, or maybe give them two of those or whatever, or, the recess here with the, you know, what is that? Adam's apple? I'm sure there's a more technical term than that. But do something more recessed like that so it looks, just a bit more alien. Okay, so I probably shouldn't be going to this already, but I'm going to go ahead and up the resolution a bit so I can detail it a bit more. And forgive me because this probably isn't, it's probably too early in the stage of this design, but I'm going to do it anyways. And then control, drag should give me a bit more stuff to work with. Okay. Okay, so I've got the resolution that I want here. Let's go in and start adding a little bit more detail. Okay, so brush, I'll keep with the clay build up for now, even though I probably should start switching up the brushes. Or you know what, actually, I'll define a little bit more planes. So brush, trim dynamic, that's D for that one. Notice it helps for things like lips or whatever kind of orifice this thing's going to have. It's good to do regardless because it's real easy to make everything overly smooth in your design, and it's good to have some planes. Makes for a more interesting and well constructed face or creature. Another thing I like a lot about designing stuff like this in ZBrush is the ability to, just rotate it around and look at it from different angles. You can't do that with your 2D drawing. Um, it's one of the reasons why I think when people try to take certain elements of a 2D drawing to 3D, some of them don't, convert very well. And that's why, because they don't have that ability to, shift it around and perceive it from different perspectives. It's all kind of made up at that stage. This gives you just a little bit more in the realm of, believability or whatever. It's in a 3D space, so you can figure it out a little bit more. And I kind of want to keep that forehead at a more of a slant, a nice flat slope right there. I think that looks kind of more alien and cool. Not digging the mouth or the nostrils. The nostrils got to be switched just a bit. Let's see if I can do something more unique with those. Right now, he just looks like he's got a bit of a pig nose. A little piggy. I think it's tough when you're doing like alien creatures because, you've got all this freedom to do whatever. Obviously, nothing's wrong because it's, no one's seen this guy. He's an alien, so you can mess around with it. But in the same regard, where you have all that freedom, it's also, you know, there's almost too much open space to, you know, not get something correct or cool looking, or what's deemed, cool by the fans or other people viewing it. So it's tricky, you know. The other thing that I like about ZBrush is the ability to just texture. I kind of just draw on my texture, but I'll show you. Yeah, and I'll go back to clay buildup. Probably really got to start using other brushes. But even at this stage, I'll start kind of drawing in just little bits of texture into the skin and stuff. And I just love, I think it's so neat that you can do that. Again, never modeled traditionally or sculpted, but I would imagine that this is how it feels because it just feels really, really neat, really elegant. And remember to hit Alt every now and then. Also remember to change your brush size quite frequently. Little randomizations like that go a long ways whenever you're doing anything. It works the same way with 2D art too, so that's where I remember or get that from. What did I do there? And I'm still in symmetry mode, which makes for a quicker workflow. But as I get this to a level where I really want it to kind of shine or stand out, I'll pull symmetry mode off and just start detailing, um, you know, and making it less symmetrical, which in turn will make it more appealing. And I normally drop the eyes in with the sphere. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that here. I might just build his eyes out. They kind of look creepy and different just using this. Maybe they just have these recessed eye sockets that have no eyeballs. No, that'd be kind of like cheating, but he is an alien. I could get away with that. I've watched videos too of guys doing this, and they actually stay away from the smoothing brush, and they just use the Alt feature to build structure, and then use Alt to blend it back down. And I thought that was kind of a neat approach. It allows for more texturing as they're going. Because I've noticed that the only problem by using smooth too much is that you never really get that lifelike kind of feel. You end up with too much of this over here, which is too overly smooth. But and then again, this is like only my, I don't know, fourth or fifth, you know, rendition in this software. So, which is another thing I want to point out, that it's that great of a software where, don't get me wrong, I do have a formal drawing background, but I don't have much of anything else. I've got some 3D background in Lightwave, but that was mainly like logo flyings. I only did a few characters. They were basic. I did like local TV ad agency stuff. So, um, so I did more like with the rendering and lighting and stuff like that than anything. But the software is just so intuitive. Well, let me take that back. It's intuitive and it's not. It's actually a really hard interface to get the hang of, because it's not like anything else I've used interface wise. Like, meaning you can jump from Photoshop to, say, GIMP or Corel Painter or something, and still relatively have some knowledge to find your way around. Well, for whatever reason in this software that doesn't apply. There are like tools that I've never even heard of. There's directions taken, and I have, like I said, somewhat of a 3D background, so you think I would have been able to jump right in and figure it out. Like, I can use um, other 3D apps based on my knowledge of Lightwave, somewhat. I still got to look around. Some of the terminology is there, obviously polygon flow and, um, you know, whatever. All the terminology is still there, but the way that this interface works is entirely different. And that's probably why, if you notice the way I'm working through this, I'm only using a couple brushes. I really don't know that much about the software yet, so I'm just sticking with what I've figured out thus far. Um, but that being said, just with those few tools, I'm already able to create, in my opinion, some pretty decent stuff. So, I'm happy with it. I think it's a fantastic program. And anything worth knowing is worth the effort to learn it. So, if I got to spend some days and nights studying the program, which I'm doing, I'm going to do it. To be able to produce some really nice work. So, yeah. At any rate, I don't know why I just went off on that tangent. But it's worth it. The software is very cool, and yes, you're gonna hit some points where you kind of bang your head against the wall and go, crap, how do I, like, one of the things was even the save options were tough for me to figure out in this. I was saving my documents over here, which basically saves like your background detail or stuff like that. Um, you actually have to save everything as a subtool over here. So just so you know, I mean, yeah, and that takes some getting used to. Even the layers work a little bit differently than what I've been accustomed to as far as what layers mean. But once you do figure it out, it's an amazing tool. And if you need proof on that, just look at the work that's being produced with this software. It's phenomenal. And I want to say that a lot of the big production houses that make the really cool 3D effects, this is predominantly what the character creation is done in. If it's not, it's something like maybe Mudbox or some of the other big names. But um, yeah, I would think this is right up. This has got to be one of the big ones because it's just too impressive how it functions. All right, I'm just redynameshing, which I probably didn't have to, but let's see if that does anything. All right. So now another one I like is Brush, Damien Standard right there. This one's really cool for wrinkles and recessed areas. I actually do the same thing where I draw it in, and then if I want to show like a little bit more of a protrusion, like I always want to show a little bit more of a point on the top lip. I'll see if it looks cool in this character. I'll just hold Alt and do a little bit of that. Turn to the side, see if I like it. It's kind of weird, but it's fine. Smooth it just a hair. Yeah, it gives me just a little bit more of a lip shape. I'm going to smooth just a little bit of this and come back in with the Damien standard, which everybody calls it the damn standard. It's pretty funny. Oh, yeah, and the other thing to remember is just the alt. Every brush that you use, if you hold alt, it's gonna reverse, which is kind of a nice little workflow and easy to remember. Again, it's good for wrinkles, and then you can take. One thing I like to do with the models after I get them to a certain point, I'll do it here because I don't want this video to be too awfully long. I'll probably spend hours on this model. Um, is I'll take you hit X and it takes symmetry off, and see how you can't see. If I hit X, you get the other dot over there. So that's how you know your symmetry's on. So hit X, then to make sure we're still on the damn standard. I feel bad because I just swore. All right, so now I can fill in some of these little details, give it some more texture, but I know that I'm not, in symmetry mode where it's going to look silly if all the wrinkles are in symmetry. So just, and let me size that brush down just a hair. Remember to always keep changing the brush size as you're doing this. Um, Maybe a little bit bigger. Yeah, I guess it looks better bigger. All right, and then just, kind of tilt it, make sure that the texture is working the way that you want it to. And I'm big into detail. Like, to me, that I still need to add a little bit more polygon count. Let me see where I'm at. If you hover over it, it tells you I'm at 302 poly, so that's still pretty low. So I'm going to bump this up to the 512, which is pretty heavy, but I think for what I'm going to do with this, and hit control. The other thing is this, I'm not animating this character. This is basically just it's like me creating an illustration in 3D. So essentially I can get away with more because I don't have to worry about deformations and animation later. And I'm still kind of trying to figure out if I want to add some eyeballs in there. I might be able to shade it pretty cool and even do a little bit of a glow inside the inner ridges there without an eyeball. That might look kind of neat. And I probably should have paused this while I did this portion. So I think it's reprojecting the polygon data or something like that. Okay, yeah, it just jumped it up to over 1 million. Still reacts well though, which I think, and I'm not sure, don't quote me on this, but I think 1 million polys in ZBrush isn't that much. I want to say from some of the stuff I've been studying that people get head and bust shots at sometimes even a couple million polys and everything's fine. It's kind of neat how this software can handle all that and run perfectly fine. Yeah, see, and I'm getting a little bit more of the detail that I want to see in there. And again, since I'm not in symmetry, I got to remember to bounce back and forth from side to side. Maybe I'll hold like Alt here and bring this out just a little bit. Smooth it back in. And I got to study texture brushes, and alphas next, which I want to say you can just grab here, go to some kind of bumpy alpha of some kind. Let's try Let's try that. It looks a bit alien. Let me go to the standard brush. Nope, no, no. Oh, alright. I'm sorry. I had the alpha on the other one. Let's try that again. Yeah, there we go. So I just painted a little bit of texture there. I like doing this a little bit further away though. Makes him look a little more reptilian or something. And I'm not going to do any poly paint in this, which adds a whole nother level of depth and coolness. But what I'll do is just play around real quick with the material if I can here, and let's make him look a little bit more alien. That's too spec. Oh, craziness. All right, hold on. Still a little too specular. Oops. Starting to look kind of neat though. Let's try a little bit lighter color tone and less specularity. Is that less? A little bit better. Another thing that you can do that's kind of neat is do a BPR. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. Yeah, and that always looks kind of nice. It gives you a little bit more realistic shadowing of your character. Alright, so I'll do a little bit more on the neck here. Let me actually do a little bit of the texture first. Which I think I need to make that brush larger. Then bring it down. Paint some smaller texture in there with it. Which I gotta play around with the textures a lot more and start making my own and stuff like that. I think today I'm actually gonna do some kind of reptilian skin texture just to get a better feel for how you can integrate that into your models. Yeah, let's move some of this out. Clay build up. Oops. Yeah, so at any rate, I'll start bringing this to a close. I just wanted to show you guys, kind of more of an update. I'm going to put my symmetry back on. More of an update as to what I'm up to over here at Ram Studios. Um, and this will help me progress the Blackstone Eternal comic. One of my game plans here is to actually develop each of the characters from the Blackstone comic, and I'll be posting those on DeviantArt and stuff like that, and showing you stuff on YouTube as I make them. And what I'm going to do is actually use those even for reference for my illustration work. Sometimes maybe I'll use them for cover pieces, and it's all additive to the project. So hopefully you enjoy that. And sorry to the fans that are just straight comic book guys. I know that sometimes, based on the responses I've gotten, that some people like it, other people don't. I just feel that it's a necessary stage of evolution in the process of what I'm trying to do with all this. So I think I'll be able to, it'll help me create better art, help me have a better understanding of anatomy and structure and characters. So it's all, again, it's all additive. So I appreciate you watching today, and hopefully this has showed you some things and gave you some insight into some other opportunities out there for you and what you might do. And Let me know what you think, and be sure to comment, like, subscribe, and share if you don't mind. And more on the way real soon, and we will talk to you. Thanks for watching.